You know, one thing that's not advertised when you're upgrading equipment to put out a more professional product on YouTube is that as you upgrade, you get to see all the wrinkles in your face on camera. Do not recommend. After playing New World recently, which I can really only describe as a solo experience, at least what I was playing, I got to think about some of the MMOs that laid the groundwork for what I expect in an MMO. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. When I think of the main thing that separates an MMORPG from a RPG or a lobby-based game, it always goes back to the social aspect. This makes sense as I grew up on a few core MMOs that heavily relied on the social aspect to create memories and content. Ultima Online, Everquest 1 and 2, and Star Wars Galaxies. I mentioned these games specifically because I think if you took away the guided or forced social aspect, the entire tone of those games would change. Simply put, playing these games solo wasn't really an option, at least not a terribly viable option. You will always find outlier players who find a way to conquer the challenge intended or not by the devs. Each of these games approach the social aspect a little differently, perhaps with the exception of the two EverQuest games, which were very similar in most ways. In Ultima Online, the social aspect was a mix of aggression and cooperation. PvP was a huge part of that game when I played, but so was crafting. You needed other players to do things. Essentially, they were the economy. You visited player-run shops and in-world homes all over Britannia. Grouping was possible, but it wasn't the same concept that came about in future MMOs, at least not at the beginning of Ultima Online. There was a constant flow of social interactions though. Are you going to kill me? No? In a sense, Ultima Online created this new world where there were fewer rules on the social aspect except the fact that you had to do it in some way, shape, or form. It was definitely one of those games that it led you to something, but then you could kind of do what you wanted with it. If you wanted to kill somebody in the game, you could. If you wanted to group with them and go kill some dungeon monsters, you could do that too. If you wanted to sit at your forge all day and craft amazing things, you could do that as well, and had the very cool aspect of having your name on the things you crafted. It was one of those games that just let you be you with everyone else, and you existed in that world with them. EverQuest and EverQuest 2 changed the formula. They took the social aspect of Ultima Online and, save for Priests of Discord and a few PvP servers, dropped the aggression part. EverQuest was cooperative, but cooperative and competitive. Resource scarcity, be it loot or spawns, put players in direct competition with each other, but rather than killing the person stealing your raster camp, you needed to work together with others to outplay the other group. So that was where the competition part came in, but it was still a cooperative thing that you did with others. I mean, yes, you could train if you really wanted to get that raster spawn, but you know, that's just a dick move, okay? The idea behind EverQuest was co-op gameplay. Working in groups and raids to take down foes you could not take out alone. This, to me, is the peak of MMO gaming because it took away a lot of that aggravation that came with PvP social and made it fun. That said, it was still far from perfect, and even nostalgia glasses won't gloss over some of the issues that came up with the game, including massive time sinks and kill stealing and all kinds of things like that, ninja looting. There were problems, but to me, this formula from EverQuest is key to what makes an MMO an MMO. The social cooperative aspect in long form, grinding, working towards goals, devouring content together, that is what made EverQuest so ripe for memories. And for those of you who didn't play EverQuest but played classic WoW, very similar thing here. In this, you shared an achievement that was not necessarily at the expense of others, like in PvP. For every PvP memory that was fantastic, there's someone on the other side of that that had a really shitty day. Now, that's not to say that if you beat someone in a DPS race that group didn't have a shitty day too, but it's a little bit different. There are other pieces to the stew that makes an MMO: lore, farming, RPG elements like gear. But to me, the base will always be the group and raid dynamics of a game like EverQuest that allowed people to come together to make something happen in the game. Now, come with me to a game that kind of tried to do both and added other things. In a galaxy far, far away, SWG, or Star Wars Galaxies, was made by the same studio as EverQuest 1 and 2, SOE. It took a lot of pages from the book that created Ultima Online, as well as the book that created EverQuest. PvP was a large part of the game, but not quite like Ultima Online. It was more opt-in, but not only was it more opt-in, there were two very clear sides. There was the rebels and there was the Imperials, and they worked against each other. Because it was opt-in, they had to balance that with rewards. They really did tweak the Ultima Online PvP formula and make it something that was rewarding for the people that wanted to do it, and a side thing that didn't really bother them that much if they weren't. It may be a bit bothersome when there's an entire Imperial raid on the city you're in trying to do some crafting, but you can still keep crafting while the explosions are going on all around you if you're not, flagged for PvP. So there was that. A sometimes lackluster PvE experience in SWG was overshadowed by the brilliance of the crafting and housing systems that dominated the game. The interaction of crafting and housing with every type of player, whether they were a PvP or PvE, crafter, entertainer, no matter, you intersected with other professions in the game and it always felt rewarding. Like Ultima Online, the in-world shops were back and just as impressive. Running into a home and seeing a crate dragon trophy next to the vendor you were looking for was such an amazing experience. It's one of those things that's kind of been lost with bazaars and instance housing, which are both in their own way good developments for MMOs because they have increased accessibility to things. It's no longer the haves and the have-nots in a lot of ways because they're there and available to the masses, but it does take away some of that feel of being in a world with people because yes, it's just a name on an auction list. It's no longer that incredible house that's right outside of Theed and has crate dragons and Tusken Raider trophies all over the walls. It hurts it a little bit when you go into the instance sphere. It takes away a little bit from that social aspect. One of the main things that made crafting in SWG so interesting is like having factories and things like that out in the middle of nowhere. That game made tremendous use of their massive maps. It did, in a lot of ways, hurt their PvE because there wasn't much time obviously spent on that. If you played the game, you really know what I'm talking about. The PvE was probably that was the wobbly leg of SWG. Now, this is all, we won't talk about NGE with SWG. So this is all before. Yeah. There's a lot more to talk about with these MMOs, digging into all the different systems involved in each game and how to contribute the different positives and negatives. But for this, I wanted to focus on the bedrock foundations for an MMO, which to me is socializing. But now I'd like to turn it to you. What games do you remember fondly for the social aspects? Was it cooperative, competitive, or aggressive? Was it like PvP? Is it something you want to see more in games in the future? Would you play a game now that requires grouping to progress? Is that something you're eager for, or is it something you are looking to avoid? What do you think? If social is not the thing that makes an MMO to you, what is? I am very curious to know, and I would love if you would leave some down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, please leave a like, which would be somewhere down here, maybe, I think. Yeah, possibly. And subscribe for more whatever ridiculous content I can come up with. Whether it's gaming, writing, or eating the bomb. That was dumb. I don't know why I did that. I'll be doing it again at September 16th. Twitch.tv/RedbeardFlynn. Thank you so much. You're all aces. Love your faces. Have a wonderful day.